Hello, friends. This is the Meme Team podcast, where we talk about the logic behind virality. Because marketing isn't just logic, it's culture. And our podcast decodes both. Sonia, it's Halloween this week.
Yeah, welcome everyone. Yeah, it's fun. We've got costumes lined up and ready, but it's also the World Series, which we'll get to later. So it's just going to be a very busy week.
Yeah, I'm excited. Since moving to the suburbs, Halloween has become my favorite holiday.
Really?
Yeah, because it's a nice, like, my neighborhood kind of gets into it.
Mhm.
People will trick or treat, people decorate their houses, and everyone in my neighborhood is just really, really nice. So,
Mhm.
like people will like set up their chairs on their porch and just like chit chat and hand out candy.
I love that.
So, yeah, so it feels very welcome and
Yeah.
friendly, and like it just feels like a really nice community. So, it's
Yeah,
made
yeah,
me really
yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, we're similarly, it's just like row and row of Halloween decorations and people set up, and you see like the adults having parties and the kids, going off to like trick or treat. So we'll usually do a little trick or treating and then come back once the kids are kind of tired,
Mhm.
and then put them down and then give out candy like the rest of the night. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've always liked Halloween though.
Oh, yeah.
I like have a dream of like going to like one of those adult parties, kind of like in Hocus Pocus, when you have like them dressed up and stuff. So maybe one day we'll host one of those parties.
Yes, one day. Well, yeah, when the kids are a little older.
Yeah, when they can go off on their own and trick or treat
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah, no, 100%. And also I'm excited because I think I said last time I'm gonna
Mhm.
be roomy for Halloween. Pumped about that.
Yeah,
And I'm making my husband take me to the K-pop Demon Hunters sing along at
that's
an AMC
amazing.
theater. I'm so
When are you
excited.
going?
We're going Friday in the afternoon, so no kids.
Okay, that's fun.
The kids are too young. It's gonna be too hard. And yeah, some of my friends were like, "Oh, cool, we'll bring the kids." And I'm like, "No, just adults. If you want to buy your ticket, you can come with us."
Yeah, yeah. You're like,
So we're doing
please, they're
that.
gonna ruin it.
They're gonna ruin
Yeah.
it. So
You're
no,
like, I want to be singing. I want to be belting these songs, and
yeah,
the kids are just gonna be like, Mom,
yeah. And I
stop.
don't exactly. And I don't want to share my popcorn. Like, no, I want to be in my roomy costume. I'll be wearing the PJ pants, teddy bears, and choo choo trains, a
Oh,
comfy
amazing.
hoodie, and a roomy braid,
Yeah.
rocking out in the theater.
I'm so excited for you. You've been talking about this since the last one in September that they were offering, so I'm glad that you finally get to go.
Yeah, I think we probably lost subscribers who were like, "I cannot
Yeah, right.
listen."
I don't know, but some of our most popular, like, YouTube segments and shorts are the K-pop ones, so we need to be talking about K-pop more, in fact, I think.
Yeah, it is brilliant. I think it's so smart of them to do it for Halloween too,
Mhm.
because like it lends itself so well to dressing up. People will
Yeah.
reuse their costumes.
Mhm.
Like it's just getting more mileage out of the costume that you already put together or paid for.
Yeah, definitely. Plus, it's one of those that, like, it's actually, like, wearable again. It's not just, like, some hokey plastic thing that you're, buying. Awesome. Well, also speaking of the movies, I wanna do a little follow-up on the Bugonia bald screening because it happened last week, and it was, like, popping up all over my timeline, and there were a few, like, photos that showed up, and like I said, with, like, them from behind, and you see, like, the bald heads, but part of what also happened was that there was this one tweet here that, basically someone said that their friend went, she shaved her head, and
Oh.
like they took a photo of her like afterwards, and like you can see just like the shock in her face of like having done it.
Oh my gosh! Like she knew. I
Because
mean, she knew she was gonna do it, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But I
but she
think
just was shocked after.
yeah, I feel like you can be swept up in the moment and then realize like, holy shit, I just am bald now. you know? What also sucks is that apparently it was taking so long to do the shaving that they ended up cutting it off towards the end and just giving people bald caps. So not everybody had to get their head shaved, which like sucks as like the principle of the matter. I'd be so pissed off. I mean, obviously I would never do that myself, but if there's something that people have to participate in and then some of the people at the end don't have to because what, you got there late? Like, yeah. So
What?
so
That's
yeah, on top of that,
crazy.
if those women found out that there's other people that could have watched the movie without getting, their head shaved, probably did not feel the greatest.
But wait, but also that means that they brought the bald caps. Like they made a backup plan for this.
Oh, I know. I wonder if they're like, okay, there's going to be probably somebody that freaks out enough that doesn't want to do it, or we get started on it. And so then we just, give them that. So they probably only brought like maybe a few. But you're right. I mean, they had to come up with that backup plan,
Oh
at
my
least for the
gosh.
for the footage, Though at that point, it's like you make that person, I don't know, sit off to the side or something. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's kind of crazy.
Man, that's
But I did want to say
crazy.
that they talked to like the cast. Emma Stone said, I just assumed that it's people who already wanted to shave their heads and were like, okay, I could just do this at home or I could see the movie right after. It's a good time. It's just a good time if you're already wanting to shave your head, which fair enough. That is the way to like think about it. But
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
fair statement.
exactly.
Completely fair. I mean, maybe that woman, like, I could, but I mean, to your point though about getting swept up in the moment, I
Mhm.
can definitely empathize with that.
Yeah.
I think if she was like, yeah, I've been wanting to do this, like, let's go, and then just like, holy moly, I actually did it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
that,
It's true.
but then also to know that like
Yeah.
not everyone here had to do it. That's just really deflating.
I know. But I mean, she'll always have that story. And you know what? Hair grows back, right?
Yeah, hair grows back. It's
So props to her for
yeah,
that.
yeah. So okay, my very nerdy topic for today was I wanted to talk about surveys, like survey data.
Mhm.
So, the Associated Press did a survey recently of over 1,200 Americans about Halloween. So I thought this was kind of a fun way to intro
Mhm.
this. So, according to the AP, about 2/3 of American adults will celebrate Halloween in some way this year, especially with parents of kids under 18 being more likely to have plans. 40% of people plan to display a pumpkin, but only about 1/4 said they would carve the pumpkin.
I'm
And
in that boat. Yeah. I'm
yeah,
cool with like the pumpkins themselves, but taking that extra step to carve them, they're so dirty. I just, yeah. I'd
no, I'm
rather
with
just
you.
not
No,
wrap
100% I'm with you. Because it also, it takes so much longer than you
Yeah.
think. Like, you think, like, oh, it'll be like 10 minutes. It takes like, you know, 8 hours to no, but
Right.
it takes forever to
Sure.
scoop it out. So yeah, I am
Mhm.
team no carving as well.
Mhm.
And then the other thing that was kind of caught my eye, 5% of adults say that they will pass out healthy snacks instead of candy. It
Still.
caught my eye because I feel like around this time of year, you see a lot of, viral takes on like, just so you know, like, you should pass out stickers, not candy, and like, try doing healthy options. People should be passing out apples and oranges because
How about
not every
protein
kid.
bars?
Right? What was that?
How about protein bars?
Oh,
Who
yeah,
hand that out?
protein bars, right? Like, not every kid has access to food, and which I think is fair to be mindful of, for sure. But
Yeah,
it just
but
kind of made me wonder, like, how popular is this take of, like, considering healthy options? So, interesting that it was 5%, because if you
Mhm.
asked me to guess what people would say, I would have guessed, like, 20%.
Oh, really?
I don't know. What would you have
Huh.
guessed? Would you have guessed 5%?
I would have thought less.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, just because I don't know, the whole point of Halloween is the candy,
Yeah.
and I would have thought it'd be less, but,
Yeah.
yeah, so 5% is kind of high for me.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
guess I don't know. Maybe that
I
just
wouldn't
says a lot
have.
about my algorithm and how much people virtue signal in it.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing is
Yeah.
what this was an anonymous survey, right?
Yeah, and like they designed this survey, like the survey sample to really try to be representative of the average, like so that the sample size of like 1,200 people is their best attempt to be representative of the country.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that was interesting. And I mean, like, my overall thought here, though, is obviously, we'll see. I don't know if there's going to be follow up from this survey,
Yeah.
but the overall thought that I have, like, as a marketer, is there is such a big difference between the things that people say they do
Mm.
and the things they actually do.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a tough thing with the survey data. It makes it
Mhm.
tough when, like, you're trying to gather customer insights because people might respond the way they think they should respond,
Mhm.
or the way that they think you want them to respond,
Mhm.
or even just maybe they remember things wrong,
Yeah.
or they are just wrong. I don't,
Mhm.
because I don't think anyone's deliberately trying to take surveys to mislead people.
Mhm.
Although I'm sure there are the few weirdos who do that. But like, I mean, think about the people who, if you ask them like what news sources they read, maybe they'll say like, "Oh, I read Yahoo News." But maybe actually what they're reading is articles through the Associated Press, like from the
Yeah.
Wire service, where it's like, oh, it's not really Yahoo News, but it kind of is,
Yeah.
like that stuff. And it had me thinking about at my company, SparkToro, at our recent SparkTogether conference. So we had a tough time selling tickets. Like, I mean, we still sold a good amount of tickets. We had over 200 people there, but just that we wanted to sell more than we did.
Right.
And it was a little bit harder than we thought it would be, especially because last year's conference, we had 200 people. People were super excited. The feedback that we got was overwhelmingly positive. Our survey stats. Now, this is like from our survey. And again, I fully believe people are well-meaning and like in their hearts, they mean it in this case. Last year, we 100% sold out. 97% of attendees rated the speakers as good or exceptional, and 93% said that they would likely or definitely attend again for this year, for 2025. And so we thought it would be interesting to look at the data for this year, like how many people actually did attend who came last year. Do you want to guess?
I mean, if they were happy about it, what, like 80%?
Yeah, that would be my guess.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, at least 70 would have been my guess.
Uh-huh.
Just over 20% people
Wow.
attended again. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm putting out there, admitting like, that's not a great stat or discrepancy.
Yeah.
I don't believe they were lying when they said that they would come again. I think
Yeah.
they just changed their minds or for, XYZ amount of reasons.
Huh.
Hmm.
That's interesting. Okay, so I want to tell a story about surveying because I realized this a while ago. I used to work for an ebook publisher, and one of the things that we would do as an onboarding for customers is to ask them the type of books that, like the genres that they like to read. So that encapsulates everything, right? Romance, fantasy, sci-fi, literature, blah blah blah, everything. And so the folks would sign up, and we like resoundingly got people not clicking on romance books, right? When we started sending out the emails, we started doing it based on what they would click on, right? And then like the types of books that they would end up buying. And some of those, right, like a lot of the genres like could be labeled, multiple genres, right? Like especially if you're like literature or like fiction, right? From there, you can be labeled all these other things, right? And so we try to be as overarching as possible so that people got as many options as possible in like their inbox. And so we would include, romance books based on what they were clicking, right? And we'd get emails from folks being like, I hate romance. Why are you sending me romance books? And it's like, well, but you're clicking on the romance books and you are then purchasing them as well. So then we started testing getting rid of the genres within the email. It was just the books, right? So based on the covers and like the title and like basic summary. And sure enough, they kept on clicking on those romance books and buying them. I think this is one of those things people hate to think of themselves as like romance readers, right? Because they're overwhelmingly like female, a certain type of female demographic that people don't want to like think of themselves as. And as soon as we got rid of that, that demarcation that would, tell them, oh, this is a romance book, they would just buy it because that's what they wanted to read. That's what they were interested in, right? And it was similar with like cozy mysteries, some like sci-fi and like fantasy, right? But romance was overwhelmingly the genre that like people just had that like, instinct reaction of like, get me off this like list, right? And then we started creating individual lists for the different genres. And like the romance one, you kind of had to like, really shy away from, it being very like starkly like, pink and like romance and stuff. It's and we're kind of seeing that now, right? Where we have like romantasy becoming like a huge genre right now that's like mixing romance and like fantasy, because it's like you want to read the fantasy elements, but then also have it be like a romance, as like one of the main plot lines, Um, So ever since then, I'm just like, okay, you have to like go into this with like the way that people want to think of themselves and what they aspire to. And there's a lot of like, stereotypes or ways that we demean certain like, facets of people's, what they like, their hobbies and stuff, especially female ones, romance, like cooking, doing like sewing, that kind of stuff. I mean, you see it. I see it all over like Twitter and like, TikTok and stuff. So it's like always go into it with like a grain of salt of like, or kind of change the way that you're talking about it, get rid of those like signifying like factors, make it more about like the book or like the author so that you're not just like closing doors because of like all people see is like, a romance, like genre instead of just like, why don't you read the book, see if like the summary appeals to you,
Yeah,
and then
that's
go
super
from there.
interesting. So you
Mhm,
marketed the book, you
mhm.
just didn't market the genre that it's in.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's super interesting. It's
yeah.
like it's kinda like people who say, like, "I don't read self-help books, I read psychology books."
Right.
It's like
Mhm.
that because you don't
Yeah,
wanna
yeah,
call
yeah.
it self-help. Like, "I don't need help.
Exactly. Right?
I'm just interested in the science of people."
Exactly, right? Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah. I mean,
funny.
that'd be another one. We didn't focus too much on those, but yeah,
Yeah,
I mean that
sure.
makes sense as a that would also follow, right? Because it's like you have the people that like, listen to self-help or that read those books. It's like, oh, well, clearly there's something wrong with them and they know it, you know?
Yeah. No,
Um,
totally. No, that's super interesting.
mhm,
It's like, on the other side of this coin, it's like that whole thing of, like, people don't buy I'll butcher this, but
mhm,
whatever. People don't buy products, they buy the people they aspire to be.
mhm. Oh yeah.
So this is kind
Mhm,
of the inverse of that, where it's like, if you put romance on the product, they're like, "Oh, I don't read that. I don't aspire to be that.
mhm.
I read. I am literate and I read books, and I read
Yeah.
interesting books. I don't
Mhm.
read this romance trash." But then it's a romance novel, and
Right, right,
I don't
right,
know.
right.
I'm all about just own it, but that is me.
Yeah, I think there's also something to be said about how much we're eliminating people that would be part of a fandom by trying to label things too much,
Yeah.
Um, especially with like books and like genres, right? A lot of authors, you're writing a like romance book or you're writing a fantasy book or a sci-fi book, whatever. And so you're writing that, but then that just kind of pigeonholes you into like that particular, genre. So I do like that we're starting to see like romantasy where it's like, okay, no, we're overlapping. And that's not the only one, right? It's like we're seeing more like overlapping genres to give people more types of books to be reading, which frankly should be what we're trying to do, right? Is get more
Mhm.
people to read. Obviously this is about, books in general, but that I think that stands for a lot of other things too, right? Where it's like sometimes in trying to like categorize things too narrowly and for like a specific a niche, you might, keep other people out because then all of a sudden they don't relate to the thing anymore because they're like, oh, okay, that's not for me, So I think that's something that especially us as marketers should think
Mhm.
about when we are trying to appeal to different customers. And I know that, sometimes talking about like personas is a little passe because like, it doesn't fit, neatly into things. But I do like the idea of having the different types of like, consumers that like you're marketing slightly different to, right? And the messaging will be different. The way that you're putting, the images out will be different. So kind of making sure that you are able to figure out what those like different like categories are of like your consumers so that you can try to market to each of them instead of trying to put everybody into like one basket.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just kind of wrapping this up with bringing it back to surveys. I mean, this also explains why survey design is so difficult. Like, it
Hmm.
truly is. Like, I think people who don't appreciate it or don't really know, they might think, "Oh, you just ask, how did you hear about us? Like, do you like the product? Are you satisfied?" Because it sounds simple. It's asking questions and providing multiple choice answers, right? It's
Hmm.
kind of what it is, but it's really hard to design a survey in a way that elicits the kind of response that you need, whether you're a marketer or like product person, researcher, um, the data that you need in order to better understand this population or whatever
Hmm.
it is that your goals are ultimately with this. Because, I mean, yeah, if you want to design a survey, to be a marketing asset, that's one thing, and that's fine. Like,
Mhm.
that was kind of what we did with our SparkTogether feedback survey.
Mhm.
It wasn't the primary goal to create a marketing asset, but it was like, well, we do want to better understand where we can improve, but also if we get good responses, we do want to market that. And like,
Mhm.
that's fine because also like this is not serious data. This
Yeah.
was a niche conference where we got feedback. Great. But, in the case of like Halloween candy or where people get their news or just like bigger data points where you're trying to really truly understand a population, you have to understand good survey design and it's really hard to do. But yeah.
Yeah, I think another thing there, just to finish that out, is sometimes in trying to come up with the perfect survey, you leave out options for people, and you kind of create guiding questions. So sometimes leaving those open ended so that they can respond in a way, could could be a way to get better responses, but that requires them also wanting to do it, right? Because
Mhm.
they have to obviously put a little more effort into that. Anyways, your mileage may vary on that, but if you do have like a group of fans that are like super into like your brands, like take advantage of that. Or that's hopefully maybe when you try doing more like on like doing calls with like your customers to like gauge their response and like be able to do follow-ups. Okay, awesome. So I want to talk about the World Series and the Dodgers. So one of the things here that's happened, that's been like a fun thing if you're keeping track of them on Twitter, is that this fan, Jacob Brownson, has started cooking steaks before every game. So he started this when they started their series against the Phillies for the NCLS. And he just started basically making a steak for himself like every night. And then when he did that the first night when they won, he did it the second night, and then he continued that on for the 4 games that they had to win. And so he made himself a steak like each time, giving a shout out to Omaha Steaks, where he was buying the steaks from. And so people kind of like really got into it because they're like following along. And it's like, one of those things, you get a bunch of like fans together, they get superstitious about something and they want it to continue happening, right? So anyways, so we started again for the World Series, and first game, obviously we won. So he's like, oh wow, like, look, it's still, it's undefeated, right? So Omaha Steaks finally like reached out to him, and they like have sponsored the rest of like the steaks that he's going to be eating for like the rest of the World Series, but then also have given him a referral code that he can give out like on Twitter, for other fans to buy, steaks and, follow along on the journey. So I thought that this is one of those really like neat ways for of like social listening, right? It's like obviously a lot of people are paying attention to the World Series right now. LA is a huge demographic. And so like why not, put out a code for like the fans that are following along in this journey, and give them also I think it's like $30 off of like an order that they put through like Omaha Steaks, and like lift up your brand and have it be like another like wholesome, moment of like, on social media. It really reminds me of the F1 story that we talked about a couple weeks ago with Carlos Sainz and the Williams team, and like the young fan who like sent him stickers of like the unicorn to put on his helmet, and then that then also led him to like win, and then using that as a way to congratulate the fan, and then get all the fans like involved in like the feel good story as they're going along and paying attention.
Yeah, that's so fun. Plus, you know what? Food is expensive these
Yeah.
days. I could use some free steak. I should have done
Yeah,
that.
right. Yeah. But it really seems as if he's like, gone full tilt into this. Like he even has the steak guy as like part of his bio. He's been featured on like local news here in LA, as like, they're trying to like you obviously like fill the stories and like talk about the Dodgers in like new and interesting ways. So I think it's like one of those things where it's like, obviously I don't think like he went into this thinking like, oh, I'm going to start trying to get free steak from like Omaha Steaks, but then it's just like you continue it on. And I think that this is one of those ways that like as creators are kind of out there, putting themselves, out there and creating like fun content that they want people to like, follow along with. Like this is one of those ways to like make it be like a happy thing. This is reminding me of we had this discussion with Christina Garnett a few months ago with the guy who was going through like Airbnbs through like each of the different states. And then as he was, doing the journey, he was getting like more and more sponsorships as like, brands were like, hey, that's the type of brand that we want to like participate with. It gets the creator attention, but it also gets the brand's attention because they kind of get like the spotlight on them for like a wholesome, happy story that's like happening, especially in a time when a lot of corporations need feel good stories to be written about them. This is kind of an opportunity to do that, but it requires marketers to really participate and be out there, social listening, see like what people are saying about you. Is there like an ability to do these types of collaborations? It also reminds me of the Caitlin Reese story, right? When she was talking about the Spurs reaching out to that food creator who like they did the like branded partnership, and she, pretty much, brought her on to like, come up with like the different logos of the sports teams as like food. And she went off and did that, and it, they put it on their line, did the collaboration, and ended up getting a whole new host of fans from that, mostly like female fans, because that's kind of like the demo that listens or like pays attention to more like the foodie stuff. But it's a really interesting way to just try to get different types of audiences to come and like pay attention to you at a time when maybe they're not really paying attention to you. So I like that, if you really think about it, like what does Omaha Steaks have to do with like the Dodgers or with like baseball, But it's like the fact that they're able to do that tie-in that has now kind of raised their, profile, at least amongst, the Dodgers fans that are on Twitter and like paying attention, and then obviously on, through the news and stuff. So I'd be definitely curious to see like how much inbound they're getting, right? As they've been getting more and more of these press hits from, the creator, and then also just them being looped in, and that's, I assume, why that's why they're giving out the discount. If anybody out there knows the Omaha Steaks like marketing team,
Yeah.
let us know. Would love to like bring them on the show and talk about
Yeah,
like the whole
that's
experience.
fun. That's totally fun. Even if they're just sending steaks, and like that's
Mhm.
it. That's a pretty solid
Right.
win, right? It's just product for them. For him, it's something free that he was gonna do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So huge
He's
incentive
doing
for
it for
him
love of the
anyway.
game,
Doing it for love of the game, doing it for the meats. No, that's a
Yeah.
different brand. Oops,
Yeah.
Arby's. Um, but yeah, that is fun.
Yeah. Anyway, so for marketers, this is another one of those like out of the box things that you should be thinking about. Like what sorts of like collaborations could you be doing with like smaller fans and like influencers that like love you and like love your brand and like would do it for love of the game, but like that you can help supplement in a way, and in order to kind of get them on board and like their love and have them be like an ambassador of sorts, but then also like get those press hits that you would get because the whole story is interesting and fun for everybody else.
Yeah. Like when you're engaging your customer base like this, think about how you can reward the behavior that they're already doing.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Cool. And then we're going to do it slightly different this time, with just a bunch of other little stories. One of the ones that I wanted to bring up is that Lewis Hamilton was named the most marketable athlete of the year. What does that mean? Basically, just that like he's got one of the highest profiles out there as a sports star. But what makes it really interesting is that he's edged out Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. To be fair, they're kind of on like the outs just because they're older now. They're not playing on super popular teams. Messi's in Miami. Cristiano Ronaldo is in Abu Dhabi. But he's also competing against Simone Biles, who's number 2, which makes a lot of sense, right? Because it's like she's one of the most well-known stars out there. Steph Curry is number 4. Neymar of football is number 6. It's soccer. Caitlin Clark is number 7, and she edged out LeBron James. So I think a lot of what these folks have in common is that they're very commercial brands, like people know of them, but they're also doing other things on the side. Like it's not just sports that they're, bringing into their brands. So Lewis Hamilton, very famously, is a vegan. He's known as being, an animal lover. And now that he's like a driver for Ferrari, that's kind of like elevated his profile even more because it's like, the brand Ferrari and like Lewis Hamilton at the same time. So it's like all these things that are like, making the athletes themselves go beyond just the sport themselves. And I think that that's like, when I'm thinking back on like the sports segments that we've talked about, right? We had like Rory McIlroy and like Nike, right? We've talked about Coco Gauff, who has also, like done remarkably well in like the sport itself, but then also doing other things on the side to show personality. Like with her, she had the Labubus that she would bring to like each of the tournaments, right? So it's like that really showing their personality and like who they are. Um, um, and like taking that on as themselves is what's raising their profiles. Someone that I'm surprised hasn't made the lists a little higher, or at least wasn't in the top 10, the top 10 is Travis Kelce, because obviously his fiance is Taylor Swift.
Was he on the list or just not as high?
He's 50. Yeah.
Huh.
There you go. Yeah, so this is for Sports Pro annual 50 most marketable athletes.
Is Shohei Ohtani on it? He might be after after the World Series.
Yeah, after the World
knows?
Series. I would assume so, right? Because he's been
Yeah.
doing so well. And he has basically changed the Dodgers and then also the involvement of of the Japanese, crowd and brought them into the sport a little bit more.
Mhm.
No, he's not. So I wonder, yeah, if next year he'll be um he'll cross into it.
Yeah, maybe. It is funny that Travis Kelce ranks that low.
Yeah, right?
Very curious as to why, but but just because you're married to the world's biggest pop star does not make
married
you the
yet.
most marketable athlete. No, not married yet. That's what you said, yeah. Whatever.
So something to call out here is, like I was saying, that it's not just about how they're performing in sports or their follower count. It's about what they're doing on top of that. That really makes us seem like well-rounded individuals. And then it seems as if more of the brands are starting to chase long-term collaborations, which makes a lot of sense, right? Because it's like you're kind of betting on them early and then hoping that they like, end up reaching, new heights as they, continue being more successful. And that's kind of happened with like, most of these where it's like, it seems like they bet on them early. Like we were talking last week with Shohei and like New Balance, right? Like, and they got in on him pretty early, and you wouldn't think that New Balance would be the brand that he would go for, right? It'd be like Nike because it's like more high profile. But maybe they give him like a sweeter deal because they're like, hey, we're gonna take care of you more than like Nike can, because Nike has all these other athletes that they're also trying to work with, right? I remember hearing about that with Steph Curry and Under Armour, that he went to like a meeting with, I think it was Nike, and they called him Stephen Curry. And he's
Oh,
like,
that's
"Well,
right.
if you can't even get my name right,
Yeah,
like,
which is
why would I want to work with you?"
completely fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So these are like the little things where it's like if you're trying to work with somebody and have like that long-term collaboration, like you have to make it like, a good deal for them, but then also be there and supporting them. And those are the type of collaborations and partnerships that I'm like more interested in these days, because it's like has to benefit both sides, and then having them raise up together, at the same time, because now, yeah, Under Armour is pretty much like a well-known brand because of that partnership with like Steph Curry, and then with Shohei Ohtani, I'm sure the same thing is going to happen with New Balance, like where they're known as like dad sneakers. So this is kind of hopefully a way to put them with like a younger demographic.
Yeah, but I think the dad sneaker is like kind of in. Isn't that what people
Yeah.
like? I don't know,
Hmm.
shoes.
Yeah. And then the last thing I kind of want to talk about, which was a surprise, was we went viral on TikTok, Amanda.
Oh, yeah, you were showing me that. So,
Yeah.
friends, I'm not really on TikTok personally.
Neither am
But
I.
yet,
And
but
that's
it's
why
like blowing up like a lot. How many likes does it have now?
we're at like 60,000, yeah,
Yeah,
likes.
I'm scared.
Yeah, I know,
That's a
right?
goal.
And so I kind of want to talk about that because
Yeah.
so I've gone viral on Twitter. We both have, and that's a completely different beast because that's like, okay, it starts off in like your network and then kind of just usually just stays in that bubble, right? But this, TikTok's algorithm is very well known to be like it will just like randomly go viral. Um versus like the other algorithms that kind of have more of a like it builds up within like your own audience and then grows from there.
I
um
feel like the other platforms, those algorithms tend to be more so informed by some kind of mix of location,
Mhm.
similar type of person. So, like LinkedIn's algorithm wants a marketing post to be popular among the marketing community, you know?
Mhm.
So, it's a little bit more that's taken more into consideration. Some of these might be more topic based,
Mhm.
but unique to TikTok is, well, one, their mysterious algorithm,
Right.
right? But also just that it is more informed by the actual user behavior,
Mhm.
not the topics necessarily
Yeah.
that they have purported to engage with. It's like a mix of things. So,
Mhm.
all that to say, in marketing speak for that is a much more chaotic algorithm.
Yes, exactly. Though it kind of reminds me of what we were talking about earlier about surveys, right? Where it's like TikTok is like what people are actually doing, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Um, like there's such a huge mix of topics and everything that you can have on your For You page that usually you don't get in any of the other algorithms. Um, all that to say is that I wanted to kind of bring it back to what kind of happened here was that I had been, just testing that out, here and there. Like I am not too knowledgeable on TikTok overall, though I understand like the gist of it. Um but then I went and like hired like a video editor whose like job it is to understand TikTok. And it was one of those things that was just like, oh yeah, if you hire somebody that knows what they're doing and then they go viral, then like of course it's gonna work, you know? And I think that's just like a lesson for like marketers overall that sometimes um we think that like, oh, we can just like do it. Like I know the basics of it. um, but sometimes it's better to just like hire that out to outsource that, even if it's just to kind of figure out and like learn from them, in order to like, bring it back, so that you can try to test it and push it as like far as it goes. Otherwise, it's like you're kind of trying to go up a hill that somebody else has already, gone up. And it's like funny because it's like part of my job is to be that person for like the marketing stuff, right? Not necessarily like social strategy and like TikTok specifically. But, for the other sides of like, marketing stuff where it's like a big part of like what I'm trying to tell people is like, hire me because I know how to do all that. Right. And so the fact that I needed to take that own advice, in order to do that, it's just, one of those like ironic moments that like, face me. And it's funny because I wasn't really paying attention to it. Like the person that I hired, she like emailed me yesterday. She's like, hey, I don't know if you noticed, but you're going viral. And I was like, what? And then I had to go and like check it. And then I like DM like Amanda. I'm like, whoa, we're going like viral with this like thing, you know?
One of those things obvious to some people, maybe not to us.
Yeah.
Hire people who are good at things that you're not good at.
Yeah. But yeah, just, something to share with you all since you've been following us on our journey this whole time.
Yeah, I love that. That's so fun. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully we can go viral again.
Yeah. Right. Awesome.
Big
So,
takeaway I have, well, the survey stuff really is just you can't always trust it because there's a difference between what people say they do and what they actually do. And the other thing is just when you're designing a survey, you have to be super clear on what what your goals are, like what it is you're going to be using the results for, so that you can think through, hopefully, in a way that is accurate, unbiased, that you can guide the discussion and aware that it needs to go so that it can be kind of, the most productive kind of insights.
yeah. Jumping on top of that, I think the bigger thing for me is that like nice intentions don't forecast action. Like just because people say that they're going to do something does not mean that they're actually going to do it. Just because people, say that they're not into romance doesn't mean that they actually aren't. And I think that we can't be inflexible in our thinking, because you might build out a marketing strategy around like this whole thing and go down the road longer than you should, without questioning what's actually happening. That actually happened with us when we were initially doing those test results, and we're just like, well, maybe like people are just confused, and we ended up wasting a couple months trying to like futz with like what the results actually meant, instead of just getting rid of like the genre overall and just letting the chips fall where they may. We had to realize that, what people say that they're going to do or what they purchase is not the same as like what they say that they will. So just always keep an open mind about that, because it could lead you down the wrong road for like a really long time. And just make sure that like you're keeping an eye on that, and that you are trying to come up with alternative solutions to like the data flaw that you're seeing. For the Dodgers, just making sure that you're listening in for like your product, and like trying to see what those like opportunities are for like brand collaborations. This seems as if it happened a little later than I would have thought, if like they had really been paying attention, or like been really willing to like experiment with going after an influencer and having them kind of promote your product. They were able to like go on, and the fact that like the Dodgers did end up in the World Series like ended up working out for them. But if they hadn't, that would have been a missed opportunity that they could have had last week when he had originally started the superstition. So that's something to kind of keep out there. Like, I'm sure that this ultimately didn't cost them that much, because all they had to do was send out the steaks to him and then give the discount. So jumping in at like earlier would have been like far more useful for them and profitable, because more people would have been buying steaks this whole time.
Yeah, and you know what? Times are hard. I'm all for anyone getting free steak.
Yeah. For the Hamilton and the Sports Star, like, what does it mean to be like marketable? The thing there is like you're trying to like find personalities that aren't just about the sport, but then show that they care about like different things, so that you can bring in those types of audiences to your product as well. Like, with him, it's like he had the Ferrari thing and he's the F1 driver, but he's also known as being, a like animal lover. So that's like another audience there. And there's all these like facets to like his personality and who he is and is putting out into the world, that allows the different products to also rise with him. And then as we've been talking with like the different sports stars, where you're investing in them early and then using their wins to just congratulate them, and then let them cook and not have it be about your brand all the time.
I think the really great thing about especially when you're marketing with a creator, influencer, in this case athlete, it's when you are the brand, that is your opportunity to work with the human being. So it's, think about like how you can tell the story of this person as they relate to your brand. It's overall just a big hero and storytelling opportunity. And I think the successful brands that we see do this are the ones who are able to really tap into that and not just treat it as like, this is the deal, now they sell our shoes for us.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that seems so like lame now. Well, thanks everybody for following along. And we'll see you next time. Make sure to follow the pod at Meme Team Pod on YouTube, and then at Meme Team Podcast on Spotify, and now TikTok.
And now TikTok
go viral again.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. Bye.
See ya. Bye.